right. Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to the Elliott Bay Book Company. My name's Sean. I'm a bookseller here, and tonight it is my great honor to say that Nisi Shawl and Theo Downes-Le Guin are here in the readings room with us to discuss the final novel by Vonda N. McIntyre, The Curve of the World. So after the program tonight, we usually do a signing of the book, the main book, but of course, Vonda cannot be here in person. But Nisi will be back there and they will be signing their books if you would like to purchase one of their books. So now I am going to welcome up Marnie Chua, who is the executive director of Clarion West. And she is going to say some words about Vonda, about Clarion West, and about tonight's speakers.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'm looking out at this group, and I don't think that we need a ton of introductions, but I do want to take a moment to celebrate that we got this far. And I especially want to thank, we have Timmy here in the audience from Aqueduct Press, who really helped make this happen, has been inspiration. And we have Susan and Nisi, who are from our committee that has been sheltering along Vonda's books for the last 6 years. And it's been a labor of love and intensity, and I'm just so happy that we're here. And anyway, so what I am supposed to talk about is introducing Vonda. I don't think I have to, except to just say a little story, which is I got to meet her when I joined Clarion West in 2017. And I had tea with her at her home, where she was incredibly welcoming. And I got to talk to her about the ocean and scuba diving, which were two great loves of ours. And then she signed 2 of her books and gave them to me. And I am a big science fiction reader, but had not found her yet. And so I, of course, have those books until now, and they've been very precious to me. But it started a friendship that I wish could have been longer, but was so wonderful and dear to me. And that is one of the reasons I'm so happy that we got this far. And I'm going to hand this over to Nisi Shawl and Theo Downes-Le Guin. Nisi, who again needs probably no introduction, but I think I should mention has been on the Clarion West board for a very long time, but more importantly, has been sheltering students through Writing the Other, through Clarion West, through the Carl Brandon Society, and through, I'm sure, countless other programs, Hugo House and many others, for just as long, and has been so important to the community. And I think that, and Theo is the head of the Le Guin Foundation, and I'm going to just turn it over to the 2 of you. Thank you.
Yay, Marnie. Okay, so so what I was going to do was read a couple of sections from The Curve of the World, and then talk to you because you're cute. Yeah.
Likewise.
Thank you. So, and my mascot here was provided by James, and it's just a coincidence that it matches my outfit so well. Yeah. So we're going to start with a section from chapter 4. I think I have to take my glasses off because I can see the print better. There are a couple of other things I need to do before I start this reading. So that's the page. The first thing is I want to tell you that we have no pronunciation guide, but the characters that I'm talking about, let's see, I wrote it down here. This is people who basically are living on a ship called the Flying Fish. They're the crew of the Flying Fish. There's Iakinthu, who is the captain of the Flying Fish and a diplomat, and currently in the second section suffering from malaria. There's Aranthau, her navigator and lover. There's Paisu, who you could best think of as an exchange student. She's visiting from the Amazons. And Renthizu, another and more problematic exchange student who's being carried from the Mediterranean to his Pacific Northwest home. Another thing that you should know about me is that I made a vow a couple of decades ago that whenever I did a reading, I would also sing. And I have to choose the appropriate song, and I'm not going to sing the whole song, but this is a song by Joni Mitchell called Song to a Seagull. Fly, silly seabird, no dream can possess you. No voices can blame you for sun on your wings. My gentle relations have names they must call me for loving the freedom of all flying things. My dreams with the seagulls fly out of reach, out of cry. A thin haze of clouds softened the sky, leaving the sea 1,000 shades of blue and green and purple, from faint to intense. Flying fish coursed toward Fair Island. The island's cliffs plunged steep and stark into the water, layered with the shores of past worlds. Iakinthu stood at the prow. Striped porpoises played in the bow wave, riding it as birds ride the wind, hardly moving, but for a flick of a fin or fluke. Flying fish passed over a patch of deep wine purple sea. The stories said the sea people kept their wine in these spots. If a land person dove in and tried to drink the wine, it would change to seawater. The land person would change to a sea person and swim away forever. His voice attenuated by the whisper of wind and spray, Aranthau controlled the steering oar and directed the ship. When she was a girl, Iakinthu crewed along with everyone else, pulling lines or climbing the mast, clothed in a loincloth, riding flying fish as if it were a dancing bull. Sometimes now she thought she might climb the mast again, but when she asked herself why, the answer escaped her. Could I still do it? She asked herself. Is that what I want to know? Perhaps. But will I ever try? As easily expect Terebinthu and me to appear at the bull dance. Terebinthu is her bull. The island's high strata-striped cliffs gleamed in the afternoon sun. Maranti joined her at the prow. She glanced back and up, seeking out Renthizu, high above in the rigging. The companions of flying fish shouted to each other, laughed, and arranged the sails in response to Aranthau's calm commands. I remember when you first brought me here, Maranti said. I thought the ship would sail straight into that cliff. I remember too, Iakinthu said, putting her arm around Maranti's waist. I told you to watch. They stood together as in the past, watching the cliffs come closer. Under Aranthau's hand, flying fish slipped around the headland and between the lips of the harbor, the most perfect harbor of the most beautiful island. The wind died to nearly nothing. Flying fish's speed diminished until the ship barely moved through limpid blue water. To either side, the harbor's cliffs plunged into the water. Before them, Central Island swept to the water, its gentle slopes covered with tame and wild shades of green, new with spring, pale early sprouts of wheat, dusty olive and almond leaves, dark strands of cedar. The intense green of spring pastures crowned the island. The small town stretched along the shore, each house a different color, blue and red and yellow, black glazed hot water tanks crouching protectively on each flat roof. The companions of flying fish drew down the sails and disappeared below decks. A moment later, the rowing ports opened, the long sweeps thrust out, and the rowers stroked the ship toward its mooring. Home, Iakinthu thought. Renthizu slapped the tight folded sail in satisfaction, followed the other companions below decks, and took a place on the rowing bench. Whenever he took up his sweeps, he spent a moment reminding himself that he was rowing the ship of his given family. Still, it reminded him of paddling his little canoe in the cold surf of his childhood home. He had been playing in his canoe the day the enemy came. He had struggled to outdistance them. They chased him down until his hands blistered, until the paddle slipped from his bleeding hands. He stood precariously in his canoe, nocked an arrow, and shot it at the enemy leader. The next few days blurred with pain and confusion. He remembered a voice calling him from the waves, calling him to leap into the water, to leap, to escape and safety. He remembered the frigid water closing over his head. He remembered the enemy's great canoe speeding past, hands and nets grabbing at him, pulling him from the hands of the sea. They took him. A long time later, he understood that they could have taken him at any time, that they had followed him, laughing, letting him think he might escape them, until they grew bored with that game. Did they think it was a game when I pierced their leader's chest with my arrow? He thought. I'm going to stop there for that section. And then that's basically sort of how everything is at the beginning of the novel, and then there are some radical changes, um, including a trip halfway around the world. And this is, see if I can find this. This part is part of the trip. This is when Iakinthu has malaria. Iakinthu wondered where she was, what she was doing. Chills, then fevers, racked her aching body. Sweat soaked her, and the sweat chilled her more deeply. A cool cloth stroked her forehead. The scent of lavender coiled through the smell of sickness. Flying fish sailed on, surrounding Iakinthu with the shush of the sea, the creak of timber and line. A breeze of cool salt air touched her skin, sending her abruptly into another fit of shivering. She knew Aranthau's touch from long, dear familiarity, and the warmth of his body beside her. He held her, he bent over her and kissed her and blew poppy smoke into her mouth. She breathed it gratefully, and the aching eased. She dreamed. A great scrape of sand on wood sent her rushing in her dream to the deck, afraid flying fish had run aground. Rest, sleep, Paisu whispered, holding her hand, preventing her from rising. It's all right. Everything is all right. Flying fish left Lady Jaguar far behind. Iakinthu slept again. She woke again, shivering again. Flying fish swayed in a motion strange to her. Where are we? She wondered. Are we adrift in a windless sea? When has Aranthau ever allowed flying fish to drift becalmed? As if she had called him, Aranthau supported her head with his strong, rough hand. Drink, he said. Iakinthu opened her eyes. Aranthau held a cup of regional design, its figures dancing elegantly across the surface. She saw them through a haze of poppy smoke. Poppy is better than Belithi, Iakinthu thought. The drawings stay on their cup instead of dancing off and away. They would dance on my nose and on my forehead if the cup held Belithi. Drink, Aranthau said. It's a remedy for shivering. She sipped, nearly spat it out, swallowed hard. She trusted Aranthau, but the drink tasted worse than Belithi, with a bitterness that she tasted all the way down, a bitterness that broke through the heavy overlaying sweetness. What is it? She whispered. Her lips were dry and cracked beneath the lavender and beeswax salve. What? Where did it come from? It's cinchona, he said. The guides helping flying fish to the untamable ocean traded for it. Bitter. Yes. She squeezed his hand, grateful to him for tasting it before he would ever ask her to drink it, grateful that he could drink it and avoid ill effects. Sleep now, he said. The next time she woke, she felt much better. The racking ache had dissipated. Both chill and fever had vanished. She was hungry and thirsty. She tried to rise and failed, then peered around the cabin. Iakinthu! Paisu exclaimed, her voice soft. I'm here, Iakinthu said. May I have a cup of wine? Paisu grinned and leapt up and unstoppered the wide-bottomed wine flask. She poured out the wine, mixed it with a little water, brought it to Iakinthu, and held it to her lips. Iakinthu savored the wine's cool purple taste. She touched the cup, but her hands shook. Oh, I hate this weakness, she said. I'll help you, Paisu replied. She gave Iakinthu another sip of wine and put her arm around her shoulders. Iakinthu put her hand on Paisu's. What's the matter, dear? What's the matter, dear Paisu? Paisu hesitated. Your hand trembles, Iakinthu said. Paisu gazed into Iakinthu's eyes. Do Idaeans sacrifice children? Instead of denying it, instead of asking her where she had gotten such an idea, where else but from Bedard, Iakinthu took a deep breath. 1,000 years ago, in times of terrible danger, yes, that happened. Sometimes when Mother Moon and her companion have terrible quarrels. We, the people, sometimes quarrel, but do we sacrifice each other? Do we sacrifice given children? Oh, my dear. Iakinthu hugged Paisu and was glad to feel her stop shaking and relax in her arms. If a child were ever sacrificed again, they would be a Dan, and they would choose. They would consent. Paisu brought Iakinthu's hands to her lips and kissed them. May Mother Moon and her companion stop quarreling, Paisu said. A sacrifice, Iakinthu thought, makes them quarrel more. They create chaos and destruction. Does Paisu want to know this? Paisu sat up straight, her composure recovered, her worries erased, and grinned. Take another sip of cinchona, she said, and then I'll go tell Aranthal you're awake. Where are we? Iakinthu said. The sea is so quiet. Can we be becalmed? You'll be so surprised when you see where we are, Paisu said. She helped Iakinthu sit up straighter and put another pillow behind her. Are you too warm? Are you chilled? I'm just right, Iakinthu said, smiling. Thank you, my dear. Paisu ran out of the cabin, her footsteps pattering on the deck. Iakinthu lay back on the pillows, already exhausted but determined to stay awake. When she opened her eyes again, Aranthal sat nearby, suddenly with her. Did I see you come in? I let you sleep, he said. He had tended her through the cold fever several times over the years. He put his hand to her forehead. You'll be better soon. Paisu promised me a surprise, Iakinthu said. Yes. Are you strong enough to go on deck? With your help, I might be. He helped her sit on the edge of the bed. He brought a clean kilt and jacket and helped her dress. Iakinthu rose, shaky, determined, tottering. Am I an old woman now? She wondered. To the ladder, and dragged herself upward. Aranthal climbed close behind her, steadying her against the slow, strange sway of flying fish. Bright sunlight spilled through the hatchway. Iakinthu blinked against the light. I should have worn my coal, she thought. Paisu and Renthazu helped her onto the deck. A breeze touched her, hot and damp. Flying fish moved, but its sails were tightly furled. Lines reached up all around the gunwales like a rope fence. So many lines she found it hard to see through and past them. But the sails' sheets lay coiled and wrapped. Iakinthu's sight accustomed itself to the bright sunlight that seared in past the fence of rope. She gasped. Flying fish was flying. Always a surprise with Vonda. So, Theo, I'm with you now. I'm no longer inside this book.
I was very impressed by the singing. First, that you made that vow to yourself, and then you chose a rather musically complex piece too. So I can't do that. Sorry. I didn't got prepared with a song, but I
Oh,
love
darn
that.
it.
Well, I didn't want to assume that everyone here tonight can situate either you or me with relationship to Vonda or this text. So I thought we might start with just a very brief, how did you know Vonda? What's your involvement with the text? And I'll do the same.
Um, I met Vonda at a Clarion West party, and we talked about scones. So I always thought of her as like the fairy godmother of the Northwest.
I forgot about the scones, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a big
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it was a big thing with her. So I think she was relieved that I didn't like fangirl all over her, but I was fangirling inwardly. And we got to know each other very well, especially when my mother came and lived here. She would take us out to lunch. She gave me this coat. Yeah. And how did I get involved in this book? I'm on the board for Clarion West and on a committee with Susan, as Marnie mentioned, that um, is concerned with getting Vonda's legacy out in front of people. So I guess that's how I wound up doing that.
Do you recall roughly when you first met the scone moment?
Oh, it would have been 34 years ago.
Okay. Right. And Vonda was a very close friend of my mother's. So I met her when I was a little kid.
But wait, who is
Yeah.
your mother?
My mother is Ursula K. Le Guin. Sorry, thought that was covered in the intro, but just in case. Yeah, so I have no idea when I met her, but it was definitely mid 70s at the latest. And I was young, so my relationship with her was, even into adulthood, one of someone who had been uh, a kid when they first met her, and she was kind of like a cool, much older sister, aunt, elder figure for me throughout my life. And in thinking about and preparing for this evening, I was really struck by how, even now at 62, I still kind of think about her and look at her through my childhood eyes.
Wow, I did not even know about her as a child. Dang, you
And
lucked out.
yeah, well, as time permits, we can talk more about some of those stories. But I have a lot of questions for you. So,
Okay.
and I'm going to start with kind of an awful one because I think genre is the worst way to talk about a book. But I was really struck reading reviews and online reader discussions about The Curve of the World at how many people started with the sort of, is it historical fiction or is it not? In what ways isn't it? Is it fantasy? Is it not? Is it a hero's journey? Is it not? And I don't know what to make of that. I'm curious what you make of it, but I guess underlying my question is for what kind of book is it to you?
So I think that humans really like to categorize things. I mean, I think that is like, a basic feature of our brains. So I'm not surprised that people wanted to have a moment of knowing which pigeonhole, which category, which label for this. It doesn't work that way, alas.
Mm-mm.
It does not.
Certainly not with this book.
I really tried to make it fit like the alternate history, and then I came across the equivalent of Shakespeare and Hamlet being stuck on a shipwreck, and I was like, wait, no. If you have Shakespeare in this world, you can't also have Hamlet as a character. So, right? So, what is it? I think the best way to think of it is to think of it as Minoan fan fiction.
Okay.
Because it's about how I think it's really about how Minoan civilization would be reacting if it was just set and let go. But it also has all these not logical parts, right? Right?
Oh, for sure. I
You-
mean,
you saw that.
that's the fantasy, not fantasy debate part of like certain elements are interjected that are not logical at all, but also work very well.
Yeah.
Okay, Minoan fan fiction it is. So subreddit starting tonight. Actually probably exists already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, the so the given child concept and this idea of mutual fostering to me was kind of the spiritual but also structural center of the book. Like it is the framework for plot, and I think the framework for story, if I can make that distinction. And I'm interested in your thoughts about whether that is your experience as well, whether you think of it that way, and what Vonda was doing with that concept of, I mean, there's so much intricate world building and culture building in the novel, and she was kind of a fan of invention of many kinds, and that's not her invention alone, but it is, in non-fictive human cultures, a pretty unusual tradition. And so I'm curious what you think she was trying to do with that, and whether that felt as central to you in editing and reading the novel as it felt to me.
I was actually surprised that some people had problems with it. Sorry, I didn't
I know.
set this up very well, so I'm not able to look at you as casually and normally as.
Well, we're going to pretend it's very casual while
Okay.
making meaningful eye contact with the audience.
Okay, all right. So so some people found it like a troubling idea that there would be this giving away of kids, and to me it seems like this is something that people have done across the planet and across time. It's been happening a lot. There's been a lot of it happened across Europe. I'm pretty sure when there was royalty that they would send, the sons of the house to go stay with a potential enemy, potential ally. So it seemed important to me, but not um, not the only heart of the novel. Um, it, it strengthened a way of dealing with enemies and otherness. It strengthened a way that was non-combative, and so for that it was very much central. Um, but the other the other notion that I did not see explored that often defangs militarization is like a talent contest, and there was nothing like that.
How do you mean?
Like the Olympics,
Mm-hmm.
like FIFA. Um, there have been writers who've done things with this sort of like representative um, best of, uh, contest as a displacement for conquering and colonialism and all that. I did not see that, but
well, maybe
did I answer your question? I'm not
maybe
sure.
in some ways the given children are a replacement for that, in the sense that it's
More
about
developed.
reciprocity. It propels forward the plot in many ways, in a way that competition or conflict does in a lot of other stories.
Yeah. It seemed important to me, but it also seemed kind of duh, honestly. Um, Kind of like this is the way you do stuff. Why not?
Yeah.
But I
But
had
it-
a
but it-
lot of feelings like that about
But
the
it's not
book.
the way we do stuff in most human societies at this point. So
At this
yeah. So it also feels like a big feat of imagination to me.
Yeah, it's a feat of imagination to have it become more ensconced and to have it as an accepted practice, I guess.
Right. Well, and I think you did answer my question because um, you're making me think about how it takes the place of a lot of things that aren't in the novel. That, for me, back to my earlier question, I don't really think this is a hero's journey. It has aspects of it, but it lacks many of the other aspects of it. It is not. There is a lot of conflict of different kinds in the novel, but I would not characterize it as a conflict-centered narrative. Conflict is not the subject matter, and it's not the sole propellant of the story, or really the focus of the story at all. But for me as a reader, the kind of mutual reciprocity of the given children, and also the way trade is used in the book, fill some of those roles.
That's true. Trade is important as well.
And very interesting to me that capitalism is there a little bit, but mostly in the form of contrasting slaving cultures with non-slaving cultures. But a lot of the trade is not capitalistic in the way that we understand that term now. I mean, a lot of trade in any human era was not capitalistic in the way we understand it now. But I'm curious if you agree with that. Like, do you think there is an anti-capitalist strain in this book at all, or not?
It was irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
It was not the point. So yes, I guess if you want to see being ignored as being against you, sure. But yeah, it was, people were engaged in trade, but they were also engaged in like wild gambles. Like, we have all this wine. Nobody likes our wine. What's wrong?
Uh-huh. Right.
They really like the bottles it's in, though.
Yeah.
So it was, if you fold that sort of just wild cardness into capitalism, it was everywhere. But the capitalism as we know it was not. It was not cultivated.
Mm-hmm. You're speaking in the past tense. Do you mean within this narrative, or
Yes.
historically, or both?
I was just in
Okay.
the narrative. Sorry.
Yeah. 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 I'm not a Vonda completist, so I am, and I don't know. Are you? Have you
No.
read? Okay. Well, I, I'm wondering what connection you see with some of the ideas and themes in this book with her earlier writing, and I actually was thinking of that sort of specifically with the mutual fostering, whether that is something that she tried out in other settings. There are probably other people in the room who know the answer to that too, but
Yeah, I'm sorry.
yeah.
What I see is like a certain sassiness in it.
Uh-huh.
That is certainly present in just about everything of hers that I've read, and a groundedness too. Bodily fluids
Hmm.
are a part of our bodies, y'all,
Right.
and they are present in her writing, and
Yeah.
yeah, but
As are wine and olive oil, and
yes,
there's a lot of
yes.
wine and olive oil, and
Tons of wine and olive oil. My
right.
gosh, just gallons.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you didn't want to talk too much about the editing process, but is it okay for me to ask what what gave you pleasure in that process? I know it's extremely hard work, and both I would think both emotionally and uh, literally, because there's a lot going on there.
I came to this work after I had basically done the first hard part of grieving for Vonda. So what I experienced was not that it was sad, it was comforting, very
Hmm.
comforting to read her words and to see echoes of this like mind that would, they had nothing to do with anybody's preconceptions. Nothing.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has a little bit of that quality of writing for others while also writing for yourself, which if I think maybe that was there in the very first manuscript that you received, and you and your collaborators helped bring that out, or maybe it was less there and you had to bring it out more. But for me, it's very much there.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm often put in the position or asked to be in the position of putting words in my mother's mouth, and which I try to do to avoid at all costs, because it's a losing bet in a lot of ways, and also she left a lot of words, so I don't generally I can find words that she
Just look over there.
gave us. Right, exactly. But that is I think that's part of the peril of this task that you engaged in, is knowing when you do need to reframe or rephrase to to let what needs to come out, and knowing when you can just leave it.
There were things that Timmy, hi Timmy, and I both were like, oh yeah, this is a Vonda thing. She
Mhm.
would make lists of things without commas, with and this and that and that. In I mean, she had ticks, habits. We did not want to obscure those,
Mhm.
so we wanted to bring those out. Yeah.
Right. Was the timing of the publication partly to get to the point in terms of your grieving process that it could be? No. Okay.
No, it
It was
was
just a happy coincidence.
yes, that it was just the way it worked out. And there was no one saying at the beginning yet, let's just wait for Nisi. No. What was going on was a search for the proper agent and the proper publisher who would give this work the room that it deserved and not try and cut it in half or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it took a while because of that. It wasn't because of me, I swear.
Mhm. No, I didn't mean to imply that.
Okay.
I mean, it actually seems like it worked out exactly the way it should have. And that had you been going through that process in the throes of grief, it would have been a very different process and probably a different outcome too.
Probably.
Yeah. Um, One of the critiques of the book that I read is that it sometimes, quote, sacrifices uh, plot for world building, which I think was an interesting observation. That was
You
not
can't have both.
right. Right. Um, that was not my experience reading it, and I know what that writer was getting at, because I have experienced that in some other books, but in this case, it felt to me mm, so much so integrated, or just so much of a flow, that I wasn't really even able to analyze it that way. I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, there was some excision, like, mentions of things that, you know, I'm sure would be fascinating to learn more about, but had nothing to do with the movement of the story. So those got cut.
Mhm.
So I don't know, did did this person read the same version of the novel that you and I did?
I
I'm not
assume.
sure.
I assume. I
Yeah.
also think, my mother wrote a bit about the difference between plot and story, and y- I tend to think that the more relevant, if you do see those as different things, like the real question is the world building at the expense of story as opposed to plot? Because I care more about story than I care about plot. And in this case, I don't think it's really a fault at all, but I feel like the world building and the story are so fully integrated that
Yeah.
it comes through. Like,
Good thinking.
Thank you. Thank you. Not mine. You know, that's like, it's borrowed, but
Well, but
I
it
was
wasn't
thinking is.
applied to this issue.
Yeah.
I will say one more thing. I find that people who yearn for just the same old thing all the time, usually are yearning for the hero's journey, and when they don't find it, they're like, "Wait,
Right.
where did it go? There's nothing here."
Yeah. Big disappointment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I think an unhealthy obsession with plot and plot precision is not great either.
Right.
But I felt like it was important to cover all the bases. That was actually pretty much the only critical review I read. And by and large, it wasn't that critical. Um, well, I don't want to bring it back to my mother too much, but for me, many things do come back there. And uh, probably not surprisingly, as I was reading this, I saw a lot of shared, a lot of parallels and communality with my mother.
Sorry, I'll be fine. I'll be fine.
um, in a very sweet way, like things that they were both very interested in, that they, um, some of which was total coincidence and the basis for a friendship. They just happened upon those things that they both had previously been interested in, and some where they had definitely influenced each other.
I I think they did, and I think they were good influences on each other. I'm
Yeah.
really pleased when I see what you're talking about. It's like, okay, I'm not going to get all philosophical here, but have we do have versions of Vonda with us. We do have versions of Ursula within us. Those of us who have been in physical and mental and emotional contact, people who've read books. So we have this sort of cloud of them around, and when we see the glitter of their faces in somebody else's cloud, it's really a nice feeling.
Hmm.
That's what you're talking about, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I saw it in a very specific way here, I guess.
Yes.
Of
Particular issues, right?
I mean, issues, written images, themes. I mean, everything from a just an absolute love of seafaring detail and arcana, you know, to and just the ocean as a setting, to for me, like very specific parallels to Lavinia are impossible for me to ignore in the sense that for both of them, that you know that was Ursula's last novel,
Yes.
2008, also a last novel, both in the historical fiction adjacent, but
True.
with some big liberties that take the books into, and liberties isn't even the right word, just big imaginations that take the historical fiction and into an entirely different realm in a very different way in the two books, and different cultures, although interestingly not that unadjacent in historical timeline, and both cultures for which they had to imagine a lot that simply isn't known, which
Yeah.
of course was just catnip for them. And you know, the centering of female characters and the centering of um, matriarchal or female-centered culture and subcultures in both of the books. So the whole time I was reading this, I was thinking about Lavinia, even though on some levels they couldn't be more different books.
Did Ursula know she was dying? What did she know it was her last book?
She was far from dying at that point, but
See?
she knew it was her last novel, and she had actually announced within the family, which was she didn't talk about her work very much with us, and she had said, "I don't think I have another novel in me," before she started working on Lavinia, and she was quite happy that she did have another novel in her. And when she was quite sad when she made that proclamation, she was quite happy when she found she had another novel in her. And when she was done, I think she really knew she was done, but she was able to be done. And she certainly wasn't done writing. She was just done with long form.
Yeah.
And she was able to be done with more equanimity than she had before that novel came out. And she said to me that, that Lavinia represented everything that best distilled everything she believed in. I'm paraphrasing. And I don't think that means it was her favorite novel. I think that of hers or anyone's, that was not an important game for her to play, and she loved rereading her work and really loved what she wrote. But she was very satisfied with Lavinia, and that is one kind of very poignant difference, I think, maybe to where you were going with Did Ursula know she was dying when she started that? No, that's
No,
very
because she
different.
wasn't.
Right, right. And, kind of the end point of those two stories is very different and,
Yeah,
and sad
Vonda
to me.
N.
Yeah. She also started this novel, in a period when, in my view, and I'm sure many people here know this better than I do, she was really frustrated and sad and angry with where aspects of her artistic career were. Is that fair to say?
I did not get that. I was not, maybe I was just not close enough to her. But
Yeah. Well, or I'm getting it secondhand, but from someone who can't uh, articulate that now. But my impression is that she was um, worried, as Ursula was, about what was going to happen after, and that um, her legacy was a concern.
it, I'm anybody over the age of 60 who is not concerned about their legacy, they're I don't know, they're living in a different reality because most of us are some of us go around putting our names on everything.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well, and especially if you're uh, not a white male writer and you write in genre, you have quite a lot of reasons to be concerned in terms of kind of structural reasons that good writing disappears quicker.
I she was very stoic in person, at least with me. So no, that did not come through. Sorry.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad it didn't. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Do you have a anecdote you would like to share that has nothing to do with the book about Vonda?
I broke my arm. I broke my arm, my right arm, and I had to have it in a cast for 6 weeks. Vonda cut my toenails,
Oh my gosh.
and I looked down and I thought, a Nebula Award winner is cutting my toenail. There, that's all I got for you.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Well, I mean, she was very practical. She knew I could not cut my own toenails with, you know, the sling.
So my memory that I want to share is that she drove I believe, a Camaro for a long time that her dad gave her, and her dad was very important to her. And it, I didn't know anyone who drove a Camaro, and she would come down from Seattle to Portland to visit every few months, stay with us for a weekend, and I was extremely impressed with her car, which was a two-door. Like the doors each weighed about as much as a car weighs now, and it was a muscle car really. And then she had a leather jacket, and she looked like the bomb coming out of that car. She was so cool.
Yeah.
But she also, at that point, drank Cold Duck, which is a sparkling wine. Um, you don't hear about cold duck anymore, but
Nope.
she really liked sparkling wine, and she particularly liked cold duck. And so my parents would go and lay in some cold duck from Fred Meyer's before she came down, because they were not big cold duck drinkers. And that was my first cold duck was with Vonda. So cheers to Vonda.
I just want, because of what your relationship was with her, I'm going to write something that I intuited that was not true, but I think for me, but I think it may have been for you. I wrote the cover copy on this thing. Vonda treats the whole enterprise of bringing her last novel to life with the calm assurance of a favorite aunt taking you shopping in the best sex toy store ever.
There you go.
She was the cool one in the jacket, the
Yeah.
leather jacket.
Yep. Yep. Should we do some questions?
Yeah, well, we have one person who,
Yeah, we have a shill, right? Okay.
well,
Somewhere
people
in the
usually
audience.
don't.
Does anyone have any questions?
People usually don't ask questions right away. Oh, look at John's got a question.
It's part question.
Uh-oh.
She says in the acknowledgments, if you try to match it to historical timeline, it will blow your mind, quote unquote, which is very, that I assume was not an editorial insertion, because that sounded very,
I
yeah.
really wish I had read that first. Yeah.
And why would people want to? Really? That's it. I mean, that was why I kind of started with that question of like, it's odd to me that there was this, is it historical fiction or not?
Yeah.
That wasn't even the shill question. We still have the shill question.
I'm really glad you asked this in advance, Christine. I had to go back and research the original first 3 lines of the novel. In the full of the moon, a fire blazed between the horns of the mountain. The moon rose in a night sky, black and clear and deep. There we go with the Vonda list, black and clear and deep. And paved with stars, the fire's sparks reached to join the gleaming path. I did not know if I was on the moon. I did not know if the moon was on fire. Yeah, I had to. I had to revise that. So I'm sorry. Actually, that was the final version. In the full of the moon, a fire blazed between the horns of the mountain. I could not find the original version, but it was the kind of thing where, okay, the moon has horns when it's new. I've heard people talk about the 2 horns of the moon, but this is the full moon, so I had to put in that it was full and that the fire was in on the between the horns of the mountain, not just between the horns there was a fire.
Mm-hmm.
So so that's, I'm sorry, that's when I got very pedantic, and I was worried about changing the first part of the novel, because that's when you say come here, but I didn't think everybody would come.
Well, I first sentence and first part are different, and I feel like that was a good decision to make. I mean, that's a very important moment, right?
Thank you. But it was hard, wasn't it, to me?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah. Well, the more important the sentence is, the harder it's going to be to change it. So
yeah.
that is arguably the most important one.
But I don't recall that we were like opposing one another about it. Was there a time when we were opposing each other on what should be done? I don't think so. Debbie, yeah. Debbie was a good tiebreaker. Yeah. But Timmy, you are right. We are both precision freaks. I think that's a good point. I'm now struck by the idea that were there competitive bull dancing rights?
Mhm.
Because she was an athlete, the protagonist for most of the novel. But there's no mention of like, well, the Turkish bull dancers, they lost to us. We got the golden cup or whatever.
Right. Well, and it could also be, as opposed to structural competition like team sports, it could just be competition amongst people who are engaged in a solo activity, but as artists, who's the best is still important.
Yes.
So the question was whether we're ever going to see Vonda and Ursula's correspondence. I think that's a really interesting question, Marnie. We should talk. um, so it was a long friendship, and it was a very close friendship, and certainly not one that was merely professional, whatever that means. Ursula described Vonda to me pretty late in Ursula's life as her moral compass, which, coming from my mother, was the highest praise I could imagine for anyone.
That is.
And so it would be from my perspective, it would be a bit of a job to put out there what maybe should be put out there and hold back what shouldn't be. I think that there are aspects of their friendship, so much of which took place in words and writing, that isn't really anyone's business, including mine, even if I theoretically have access to it. And I'm very careful to not read, email that I have that still doesn't feel like it's any of my bloody business. So that's a tough one. I mean, I think there are there are undoubtedly some just wonderful exchanges and um, insights, for lack of a better word, about writing and about writerly collaboration in that correspondence, even if you only took the correspondence that happened on email. But that's a lot, given how early Vonda was to email and how influential she was in moving my mother onto email. She was kind of Ursula's um, tech guide, and so Ursula moved her correspondence with Vonda to email quicker than she moved it with a lot of other people. So how's that for a non-answer? I think it's a great idea. I just think that putting some guardrails around it that respect their relationship is really important. And at this point, I'm not quite sure how to do that. It may be, a matter of putting it in the hands of someone like Julie Phillips, who knows both of, knows Ursula better, but knows enough about both of them to have the same kind of sensitivities that I might in some cases, but not as many sensitivities, which is really important to do a job like that. What do you think?
I agree. I agree. And the way I was thinking of it was, you just need the right editor, someone who understands the subjects and also um, understands the boundaries.
Yeah. I'm supposed to repeat the question. So the question was, with regard to Vonda's book, was there a moment in the book that surprised or delighted either or both of us?
Man, the whole thing is a surprise and a delight, but I think the part that I was reading from is probably my favorite. With it's chapter 24. Yeah. Wait, what are you doing, Dan? Oh, yes, yes, yes. When flying fish is actually flying. That's what it was for me, I think. What about you?
Volcano.
Oh.
Yeah, that great. It's just a great part of the book, and also one of those moments where it was like, Ursula and Vonda right there.
Really?
My mother watched Mount St. Helens erupt from our back porch. She drew hundreds of sketches of it. She wrote copiously about it. yeah, in kind of day books, and it was a big topic of conversation in the house. I was an adolescent, so it's like geology, So, gosh, I mean, you look back on these things, it's like I cringe at my younger self sometimes. But that was, and that is another moment where I can't help but wonder, were they corresponding about that? Were they talking? I'm sure they were talking about it. Ursula was talking about it with everyone, and yeah, there's just a volcano connection there. So on several levels, that part really struck me and delighted me.
I think what I remember best about the volcano stuff is that it was just a slog. It was no, I mean,
I
not
love
a
that we
slog.
had such different experiences.
No,
The
not a
privilege
slog.
of the reader.
No, not a slog to read, but the experience of having an eruption come over your path.
Oh, gotcha. Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, well, that's part of why it's so well described, right? It's
Yeah,
not like one of those paintings of Vesuvius that you're seeing at a 50-mile different distance that just looks really like fireworks. It's
and in another writer's hands, it would have been all like, dramatic, and then it exploded.
Yeah.
It's just like it's going on.
Well, and not to beat the Mount St. Helens drum too much, but it was a slog, right? In addition to this incredibly dramatic uh, uh, geological history thing happening in our backyards, there was ash everywhere. It got into the engines of vehicles, so they didn't work. You were constantly cleaning every part of your house. It, it was a slog.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, yeah. The question was, how will my work on standing in for Vonda in this matter and my involvement with the book influence my own writing? Um, well, I would say both Vonda and another of her friends, not your mom, but Octavia, that she went to Clarion with. Both those people influenced me with the idea that do it. Just be bold, dare yourself to do it, and don't just like settle for what most people would expect. But I also see it's really, really reaffirming for me to see things that I do that I know I got from Vonda. So just like you saw, like this interplay between very specific things that your mother and Vonda both reflected back and forth. I see that too. For instance, the description of the purple tasting wine. I would have done that. I probably have done that.
Mhm.
Uh, I, I remember talking about something smelling orange. So that synesthesia kind of thing was it's not something that I got just from this book, but it's something that I got from Vonda all along.
But what a lovely way to become aware of that, and
Yeah.
and to be a specific awareness about how it's affected your writing.
It's really lovely, and it makes me feel better about my writing. I am kind of like Vonda in this way.
That's cool. That was a great question, by the way, and I'm embarrassed I didn't think to ask it. So thank you. Yeah, I like that. I think we're at time. Is that correct? Yeah, over it a bit. Um, well, I really want to thank Elliott Bay for hosting us tonight. I want to thank Clarion for everything and for bringing this book to where it should be, and most of all, to thank Nisi and your collaborators for doing the hard work. Vonda did the hardest work, and it shows. But together, it's just an incredible um, remembrance of her that also feels right now and contemporary and fresh and lovely to have her back in my life for a moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for agreeing to perfectly interpret and integrate this whole thing, the book and the publication and all the work that went into it still goes into getting it into people's hands.
So I didn't ask you too many questions about the process.
Thank God.
That was my one instruction beforehand.
Because it's covered in the book. You
Yeah.
just buy the book.
The book's the thing. The book's the thing.
There's this whole introduction that explains how it works, okay?
Thank you all for coming.